1 year. That was all it took for everything to change. Captain Jiho Kim stood in the Grand Hall of the Coalition Central Assembly. Around him, representatives from every member species watched. Above, cameras broadcast the ceremony across the galaxy. Billions of beings were watching. He felt uncomfortable in his formal uniform. His crew stood beside him looking equally awkward. Engineer Hyun Park kept adjusting her collar. Navigator Daeho Song shifted his weight nervously. Dr. Minji Choi smiled politely, but Jiho could tell she wanted this to be over. Admiral Thornek approached them, holding a small crystal case. Inside was the Coalition's highest civilian honor, the Star of Unity. It was rarely given. Maybe once every 100 years. Captain Kim, Thornek said formally, on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I present you and your crew with this honor. You have shown us the true meaning of courage and dedication. You saved 200 lives at great risk to yourselves. You are an example to all species. Jiho accepted the case, but something bothered him. He looked at the Admiral. Sir, with respect, we do not deserve this alone. Every human merchant crew does the same job we do. They face dangers every day. They solve impossible problems. They never give up. If you are honoring us, you are honoring all of them. Thornek smiled, a rare expression on his reptilian face. Then that is exactly what we are doing. After the ceremony, Jiho was asked to give a speech. He had prepared nothing. He simply spoke from his heart. Thank you for this honor, he began. But I need to be honest. We are not special. What we did on the Perseverance, what we did at Research Station Delta, that is just what humans do. We solve problems. We refuse to give up. We help each other. That is normal for us. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Our planet, Earth, tried to kill us for millions of years. Ice ages, predators, diseases, disasters. We survived because we are too stubborn to die. We climbed out of the food chain with no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. Just our minds and our determination. That shaped who we are. Space is dangerous, yes, but compared to surviving on Earth for millions of years, space is easier. At least space is not personally trying to kill us. Some beings in the audience laughed at that. We look at a broken ship or an impossible rescue and we think, our ancestors survived worse with stone tools. We can handle this. He looked around at all the different species watching him. But here is what we learned from you. We learned that our way is not the only way. Your careful planning, your advanced technology, your logical thinking, all of that is valuable too. Together we are stronger. You teach us to think. We teach you to persist. That is what the Coalition should be. So thank you for this honor. But mostly thank you for letting us be part of this family. We will keep doing what we do, and we hope it helps. The hall erupted in applause. It lasted several minutes. Many beings had tears in their eyes, or whatever their species equivalent was. Later that day, Ambassador Quaylon found Jiho in a quiet garden. The bird-like diplomat sat beside him on a bench. Your speech was perfect, Quaylon said. I just said what I felt, Jiho replied. That is why it was perfect. Quaylon was quiet for a moment. You know, when I first heard about your rescue on the Perseverance, I thought it was luck. Then I visited Earth, I studied your history. I met your people. And I realized it was not luck at all. It was who you are. And now? Jiho asked. Now I understand. And I am working to help others understand too. The Coalition has approved new programs. Human survival instructors will train cadets from all species. Human engineers will consult on impossible problems. Your way of thinking, your refusal to accept defeat, we want to learn from that. What if it does not work for other species? Then we adapt it. That is what humans would do, right? Find what works and keep trying. Quaylon stood up. Come. There is someone who wants to meet you. They walked to a nearby building. Inside, Jiho found Commander Velthix and Science Officer Morthak, working with a group of young aliens. The students were trying to solve a problem, how to create emergency power from random materials. Velthix saw Jiho and waved him over. Captain, perfect timing. Could you show these students how you approached the solar panel problem on the Perseverance? Jiho looked at the eager young faces. I am not a teacher. You do not need to be, Morthak said. Just explain how you think. That is what they need to learn. So Jiho sat with the students. He explained how his crew had looked at their situation, how they listed everything they had, how they thought about what they needed, how they tried different combinations until something worked. But what if nothing works? One student asked. Then you try again, Jiho said simply. Failure just means you found one way that does not work. So you try a different way. You keep trying until you find what does work, or until you run out of time. But you never give up while you still have time. The students began working with new enthusiasm. They combined materials in ways their instructors had never seen. Most attempts failed, but they kept trying. And slowly, solutions emerged. Watching them, Veltix felt a warmth in his chest. "This is what you have given us," he said to Jiho. "Not just survival techniques, but hope. The belief that we can overcome anything if we try hard enough." Across the galaxy, changes were happening. Coalition rescue teams that once would have declared situations impossible now tried one more approach. Engineers attempted solutions they previously thought impractical. Military commanders planned for persistence instead of just perfect conditions. The phrase "send the humans" became common. It meant this problem is very hard, get someone who refuses to give up. But soon it meant something more. It meant, approach this like a human would, with determination and creativity. Admiral Thornek presented new military doctrine to Coalition Command. It included human principles, mission persistence, creative problem-solving, and the assumption that defeat is never certain until all options are exhausted. "Some will say this is reckless," Thornek told the assembled admirals, "but I have seen what this mindset achieves." The humans rescued themselves from a dead ship. They saved 200 scientists from certain death, all because they refused to accept impossible. We can learn from that without losing our own strengths. The vote was unanimous. Back on Earth, life continued normally. Most humans did not realize the impact they were having on galactic culture. They just kept doing their jobs, solving problems, helping others, being stubborn in the face of difficulty. The Perseverance was cleared for duty after extensive repairs. Captain Jiho and his crew returned to their usual routes. Cargo runs between colonies. Nothing exciting, just normal work. On their first day back, Navigator Deho checked their route. "Captain, we passed near that asteroid field again." "The one where we had trouble last year?" Jiho smiled. "Make sure emergency rations are fully stocked." "You think we will need them?" Deho asked. "Probably not. But it is good to be prepared." "Just in case," the crew laughed. Just in case had become their motto. Just in case something goes wrong. Just in case we need to improvise. Just in case we have to survive the impossible again. Because that was what humans did. They prepared for the worst and hoped for the best. They faced challenges with determination. They helped others without hesitation. They refused to give up even when giving up would be easier. Engineer Hyun walked onto the bridge carrying her toolkit. "All systems checked. We are ready to go." "Excellent," Jiho said. "Take us out, Navigator." The Perseverance pulled away from the station and headed into the black. Ahead lay normal routes, normal cargo runs, normal days. But the galaxy was different now. Humanity had shown everyone that impossible was just a word. That giving up was always a choice. That as long as you were still alive, you still had a chance. And slowly, species across the coalition began to believe it too. They began to try harder, to think differently, to persist a little longer. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Because humans had shown them that it was possible. One small cargo ship, one desperate situation, one refusal to give up. That was all it took to change the galaxy's understanding of humanity forever. And in his quarters, Captain Jiho Kim looked at the Star of Unity sitting on his desk. He thought about all the human crews out there, doing their jobs, solving problems, refusing to quit. He thought about how proud he was to be one of them. Then he went back to work. Because that was what humans did. They kept moving forward. Always forward. One day at a time. One problem at a time. Never stopping. Never surrendering. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity had learned they were not alone anymore. And together, they would face whatever came next. The distress signal that started everything was long since silent. But its message echoed across the stars. Humanity is here. We survive. We persist, we help, and we never ever give up. The alarm screamed across every coalition frequency. Research Station Delta, home to 200 scientists from 12 different species, was dying. A massive solar flare had knocked out their power systems. They had maybe 6 hours before life support failed completely. Commander Velthic stood in the Emergency Operations Center, watching 3 rescue ships turn back. The radiation storm around the station was too intense. The magnetic fields were unstable. Every captain said the same thing. We cannot reach them safely. 4 hours now, someone said quietly. We are losing them. Veltix stared at the screen showing the station. 200 people were about to die, and he could do nothing. Then his communication panel lit up. An incoming transmission. This is Captain Ji-Ho Kim of the Perseverance. We heard about the situation. We would like to attempt the rescue. Veltix felt his heart skip. Captain Kim, 3 ships already tried. The radiation levels are too high. It is suicide. With respect, Commander, those ships used standard approach vectors. We have a different idea. My engineer has a plan. What plan? We would rather explain after we succeed. Saves time. Veltix looked at Admiral Thornek, who was also in the operations center. The Admiral nodded slowly. Let them try, Thornek said. Those scientists are dead otherwise. Permission granted, Veltix said. But please be careful. Careful is our middle name, Ji-Ho replied. And Veltix could hear the smile in his voice. Aboard the Perseverance, now fully repaired and upgraded, the crew moved with practiced efficiency. Hyun Park was in engineering, making final adjustments to her improvised radiation shielding. She had taken cargo containers filled with water and positioned them around the ship's hull. Water was excellent at blocking radiation. It was simple physics. She had also reversed the polarity on several hull sections, creating a makeshift magnetic field. It would not be perfect, but it would help. Ready? Captain Ji-Ho asked over the intercom. As ready as we can be, Hyun replied. But Captain, this is going to be rough. Really rough. We have been through rough before, Ji-Ho said calmly. Let us go save some people. At Coalition headquarters, dozens of officers watched the Perseverance's approach on their screens. The small cargo ship moved toward the radiation storm. Everyone held their breath. They are entering the outer edge, someone reported. Radiation levels increasing. Shield strength at 90%. Inside the Perseverance, the crew felt the ship shudder. Alarms began sounding. Navigator Daeho Song gripped his controls tightly, adjusting course, using the star's magnetic field as a guide. What are they doing? Veltix asked. Morthak, who was analyzing their flight path, looked up in amazement. They are threading through the magnetic field lines, using them as protection. It is theoretical. No one has ever tried it in practice. Shields at 70%, came the report. On the bridge of the Perseverance, Captain Ji-Ho watched his screens calmly. Around him, his crew worked with focused determination. This was dangerous, yes, but they had faced death before. They knew how to stay calm. Engineering status? Ji-Ho asked. Water shielding holding. Magnetic deflectors working better than expected. We might actually pull this off, Hyun reported. Shields at 50%, the computer announced. Life support is starting to fluctuate, Dr. Minji Choi called out. Rerouting power from non-essential systems. She moved through the ship, physically disconnecting systems they did not need right now. Lights, entertainment, heating in empty sections. Every bit of power went to shields and engines. At Coalition headquarters, the tension was unbearable. Shields at 30%, someone whispered. They are not going to make it. Do not underestimate them, Admiral Thornek said quietly. They have surprised us before. The Perseverance pushed deeper into the storm. Daeho was flying manually now, making constant tiny adjustments based on visual readings and sensor data. No computer could react fast enough. This required human intuition. Station in sight, Daeho announced. 200 meters. 150. Shields at 15%, the computer warned. Almost there, Ji-Ho said. His voice remained calm. We have time. The Perseverance aligned with the station's docking port. The connection mechanism engaged. Metal clanged against metal. The seal held. Docking successful, Daeho said, and he let out a long breath. At Coalition headquarters, the room erupted in cheers. Veltix felt his knees go weak with relief. They had done it. Those crazy, stubborn humans had actually done it. Captain Ji-Ho opened a channel to the station. Research Station Delta. This is the Perseverance. Sorry we are late. Traffic was murder. Even through the static, Veltix could hear laughter from the station crew. Laughter and crying and relief. The evacuation took 30 minutes. 200 scientists filed through the docking tunnel into the Perseverance. The human crew helped everyone aboard, calm and professional. They had prepared the cargo bay with emergency seats and supplies. "Last one aboard," Minji reported. "Everyone is safe." "Then let us go home," Jiho said. "Navigator, reverse course." "Shields at 8%, the computer announced. The journey out was even harder than the journey in. The ship was heavier now, loaded with passengers. The shields were nearly gone, but Deho followed the same path back, using the magnetic field lines as a guide. Halfway out, the forward shields failed completely. Radiation poured in. The ship shuddered. Alarms screamed. But the crew kept working. Yun diverted more power. Minji sealed off damaged sections. Deho adjusted the flight path, and slowly, meter by meter, the Perseverance emerged from the storm. When they finally cleared the radiation zone, coalition ships surrounded them, ready to provide assistance. Medical ships, repair vessels, an entire fleet had gathered to watch. Velthix opened a channel. "Captain Kim, that was the bravest thing I have ever witnessed." "Brave?" Chiho sounded genuinely confused. "We just did our job. People needed help. We helped them. That is what anyone would do." "No," Admiral Thornak cut in, his voice filled with emotion. "That is what humans would do, and that is why the galaxy needs you." Later, when the rescued scientists were safely aboard Coalition vessels, many of them asked to thank the Perseverance crew personally. They found the humans in their cargo bay, checking equipment and making repairs. "You saved our lives," one scientist said. "You risked everything for us," Captain Jiho shrugged. "You would have done the same for us." But the scientist shook his head slowly. "No, I do not think we would have. We would have calculated the risk and decided it was too high." "You calculated the risk and decided those lives were worth it. That is different." Hyun looked up from her repairs. "Worth it," she said. "Of course you were worth it. You are people. People are always worth saving, even if it is hard." The scientist had no answer to that. None of them did. They had just witnessed something fundamental about humanity, something that could not be explained with words or logic. It simply was. And across the galaxy, everyone who had watched the rescue came to the same conclusion. Humanity was not just another species. They were something special. And the galaxy was better for having the... 3 months had passed since the rescue of the Perseverance. The story had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species in the coalition had heard about the human crew that refused to die. Ambassador Quilon sat in his office on the coalition diplomatic station. The bird-like alien was reading reports from across the galaxy. Every report said the same thing in different ways. People were talking about humans. Everyone wanted to understand them better. His assistant brought in another data pad.
"Sir, another request."
"The Stellar Academy wants to add human survival methods to their curriculum." Quilon nodded. "Approve it." "How many requests is that this week?" 47, sir. "Universities, military schools, research institutes. Everyone wants to study what happened on the Perseverance." Quilon set down the pad and looked out at the stars. As a diplomat, he had studied many species. He prided himself on understanding different cultures. But humans puzzled him. He decided he needed to see their homeworld for himself. 2 weeks later, Quilon arrived on Earth. He landed in a city called Seoul. The Coalition had an embassy there. As his ship descended, Quilon looked at the planet below. It was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked peaceful, but his research told a different story. Earth was not peaceful. It had extreme weather. Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, floods, droughts. The temperature could swing from deadly hot to deadly cold. And for millions of years, every animal on this planet tried to eat every other animal. Humans had survived all of that with no natural weapons. No claws, no armor, no venom, just their minds and their stubborn refusal to give up. Captain Jiho agreed to meet with Quilon. They sat in a cafe drinking tea. Jiho looked much healthier now, back to his normal weight. He smiled easily. "Ambassador, what brings you all the way to Earth?" Jiho asked. "I wanted to understand," Quilon said honestly. "Your species fascinates us. The way you survived on the Perseverance. It was remarkable," Jiho shrugged. "We did what we had to do. But that is my question. Why did you feel you had to do anything? Why not simply wait and hope for rescue?" Jiho thought about this. Hope is good, but hope alone does not keep you alive. Action does. My ancestors survived ice ages. They had no technology. Just determination. That is in our culture, in our stories, in our history. When things get hard, we work harder. And if working harder does not solve the problem, then we work smarter. And if that does not work, we try something crazy. Humans have a saying, it is better to die trying than to die waiting. Quilon felt something cold run through him. That sounds dangerous. Living is dangerous, Jiho said with a gentle smile. But it is worth the risk. Meanwhile, at Coalition Military Headquarters, Admiral Thornek was giving a presentation. The large reptilian admiral stood before a room full of high-ranking officers from various species. We have run simulations, Thornek explained, based on human behavior patterns. The results are concerning. He displayed a star map. In every scenario where a human ship faces destruction, they do not surrender. They fight back even against impossible odds. They improvise weapons from ship components. They ram enemy vessels if they have no other choice. They refuse to accept defeat. One officer raised a hand. Is this a threat assessment? No, Thornek said firmly. Humans are our allies, but we need to understand them. Their psychology is different from ours. Most species surrender when victory becomes impossible. We calculate odds and make logical decisions. Humans do not think that way. How do they think? Another officer asked. They believe that as long as they are still alive, they still have a chance, no matter how small, and they will fight for that chance until their last breath. That makes them unpredictable, in a good way if they are on your side. But any enemy would find them terrifying. The room fell silent. Officers exchanged glances. Finally, someone said, "Should we be worried?" No, Thornek said. We should be grateful. If humans are willing to fight that hard just to survive, imagine how hard they will fight for their friends. At a research university on the planet Nexus Prime, Science Officer Morthak was giving a lecture. The auditorium was packed with students from dozens of species. His paper on human survival doctrine had become required reading. The key difference, Morthak explained, is that humans view impossible as a challenge, not a conclusion. When we say something cannot be done, we mean it literally. When humans say something cannot be done, they hear try harder. A student asked, but is that not inefficient? Wasting resources on impossible tasks? That is what I thought, Morthak admitted. But I was wrong. Humans do not waste resources. They redefine what is possible. The solar panels on the Perseverance should not have worked. But they did, because humans refused to accept that they could not work. Is this a learned behavior or natural? Both. Their planet taught them that giving up means death. Their culture reinforces this lesson in every story they tell, and their biology supports it. Humans can endure suffering that would break most species mentally. Another student spoke up. Should we try to be more like humans? Morthak considered this carefully. No, each species has strengths. Our strength is careful planning and logical thinking. Human strength is persistence and improvisation. Together we are stronger than apart. That is the beauty of the coalition. Back on Earth, Quilon continued his visit. He met with scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens. Everyone had a story about overcoming obstacles. It was woven into their culture like thread in fabric. One elderly woman told him about climbing a mountain when she was young. I fell 3 times, she said. Each time I got back up, because the mountain was there and I wanted to reach the top. Simple as that. A young engineer showed him a failed invention. This did not work, she said cheerfully, but I learned from it. Now I am trying something different. Failure is just information. Everywhere Quilon went, he saw the same pattern. Humans did not fear failure. They expected it. They learned from it. They kept trying. On his last day on Earth, Quilon met with Captain Jiho again. They stood on a hill overlooking Seoul. The city stretched below them, millions of lights in the darkness. I understand now, Quilon said quietly, why you survived. Your whole species has been surviving since the beginning. It is who you are, Jiho nodded. We have a saying, we bend, but we do not break. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. We are still here. A broken ship for 3 weeks, he smiled. That is nothing compared to what our ancestors faced. The galaxy is talking about you, Quilon said. About all humans. Some are amazed. Some are worried. Everyone is interested. What should we do about that? Keep being yourselves, Quilon said. The galaxy needs what you have. Hope, determination. The belief that tomorrow can be better if we work hard enough. We had forgotten that. You reminded us. As Quilon's ship left Earth, he looked back at the blue planet. It looked so peaceful from space. But he knew better now. That peaceful planet had created the most stubbornly determined species in the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same. He sent his report to the Coalition Council. It was simple. Humanity should be fully integrated into all Coalition operations. Their unique perspective and determination will make us all stronger. They have shown us that giving up is a choice, not a requirement. We need that lesson. The vote passed unanimously. Humanity's place in the galaxy was about to expand in ways no one expected. The monitoring station floated quietly in the darkness of space. Inside, Commander Veltix sat at his station, his reptilian eyes scanning the screens before him. He had worked this job for 12 years, and most days were the same. Ships passed by. Signals came and went. Nothing exciting ever happened in the Outer Rim territories. Then his screen blinked red, a distress signal. Veltix leaned forward, his clawed fingers moving across the controls. The signal was weak but steady. It came from somewhere deep in the asteroid field. He checked the identification code. Human vessel. The name appeared on his screen. Perseverance Humans. Veltix had met a few of them at trade stations. They were new to the galaxy, only joining the Coalition 20 years ago. Nice enough people. A bit strange but harmless. Their technology was not very advanced compared to most species. They made up for it with enthusiasm and hard work. He opened a channel to his superior. Within an hour, Veltix was commanding a rescue ship heading toward the distress signal. His crew consisted of 6 other aliens from different species. They all knew their jobs well. This should be a simple rescue mission. As they traveled, Veltix reviewed the data. The Perseverance was a cargo ship. It carried supplies between human colonies. The distress signal had been transmitting for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Veltix felt his stomach tighten. Most species could not survive that long in a disabled ship. The life support systems would fail. The emergency supplies would run out. He had seen it before. His communications officer, a small, furry creature named Plix, looked at him nervously. Commander, 3 weeks is a long time. Do you think anyone is still alive? Veltix did not answer right away. He had learned not to give false hope. We will find out soon, he said quietly. The asteroid field was dangerous. Large rocks floated everywhere, some as big as small moons. Veltix piloted carefully, weaving between the asteroids. His sensors finally picked up the human ship. It appeared on his view screen, and what he saw made him pause. The Perseverance looked dead. Half of its hull was torn open, exposing the interior to space. The engines were dark. No lights shone from any windows. The ship rotated slowly, tumbling through space like a piece of garbage. Veltix had seen many wrecked ships in his career. This one looked beyond saving. Life signs? He asked. Plix checked her instruments. I am getting something strange, Commander. There are heat signatures. Very faint. And some kind of power source, but it is not the main reactor. What kind of power source? I do not know. It does not match any standard ship system. Veltix ordered his team to prepare for boarding. They put on their spacesuits and gathered their equipment. Medical supplies. Rescue tools. Body bags just in case. The boarding tube connected to what remained of the Perseverance's airlock. The airlock opened. Cold air rushed out. Veltix stepped inside, his helmet light cutting through the darkness. The ship was freezing. His suit display showed the temperature -15 degrees. No one could survive in this cold for long. They moved through the corridors. Everything was dark. Their lights revealed walls covered in frost. Equipment hung loose from the ceiling. Then Veltix noticed something odd. Cables ran along the walls, crudely attached with tape and wire. They led deeper into the ship. He followed them. The cables led to what used to be the cargo bay. The doors were jammed half open. Veltix squeezed through. His light swept across the bay and he stopped in shock. The cargo bay had been transformed. The hull breach had been covered with metal plates, sealed with some kind of foam. Sheets of reflective material hung from the ceiling. Angled toward the breach, sunlight filtered through the damaged sections, hitting the reflective sheets. The sheets focused the light onto dark panels that Veltix recognized as makeshift solar collectors. And in the center of this impossible construction sat 17 humans. They wore bulky suits made from what looked like pieces of the ship itself. Cargo straps held the suits together. Clear plastic food containers served as helmets. They sat in a circle around a small device that glowed with faint warmth. One of the humans looked up. Even through the makeshift helmet, Veltix could see the man's tired eyes. The human raised one hand slowly in greeting. Veltix activated his translator. I am Commander Veltix of the Galactic Coalition. We received your distress signal. The human stood up slowly, moving carefully in his crude suit. He tapped a device on his wrist. A crackling voice came through. Captain Jiho Kim, glad you could make it. Sorry about the mess. We had some technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. Veltix looked around the cargo bay again. The ship was destroyed. These humans had been trapped here for 3 weeks in conditions that would kill most species in days, and their captain called it technical difficulties. How are you alive? Veltix asked. The question came out before he could stop it. Captain Jiho looked at his crew, then back at Veltix. We made some adjustments. Hyun, our engineer, she is very good at fixing things. We had emergency rations for 3 days, so we stretched them to 21. The solar panels were her idea. We used cargo materials. The math was simple once we worked it out. Simple. Veltix stared at the solar panels. They should not work. The materials were wrong. The design made no sense according to proper engineering principles. Yet they clearly were working. The distress beacon was still transmitting. These humans were still alive. We need to evacuate you immediately, Veltix said. Your ship is not safe. Agreed, Captain Jiho said. Give us a moment to gather our things. The humans moved slowly, stiff from cold and lack of proper nutrition. They collected small bags of personal items. One woman carefully rolled up papers covered in handwritten calculations. A young man disconnected the solar panels with surprising gentleness, as if they were precious equipment and not garbage cobbled together from desperation. As they led the humans back to the rescue ship, Veltix's technical officer Morthak lingered behind. The crystalline being examined the solar panels closely. When he returned to the ship, he approached Veltix privately. Commander, I must show you something, Morthak said. His voice carried a strange tone that Veltix had never heard before. I analyzed the human solar panels. They should not work. The materials are completely wrong for this purpose, but somehow they achieved 47% efficiency. Is that good? Veltix asked. Good, Commander. That is near the theoretical maximum for those materials. Our best engineers could not design better with proper tools and laboratories. These humans did it with cargo scraps and desperation. Veltix looked toward the medical bay where the humans were being examined. Through the window, he saw Captain Jiho laughing at something one of the medical staff said. The man looked exhausted and thin, but he was laughing. After 3 weeks in a frozen tomb, after stretching 3 days of food across 21 days, after jury-rigging impossible solutions just to stay alive one more day, he was laughing. What kind of species are these humans? Veltix wondered aloud. Morthak did not answer. He was still staring at his analysis of the solar panels, his crystalline body flickering with confused light patterns. As the rescue ship left the asteroid field, Veltix filed his report. He described the condition of the Perseverance. He documented the human survival methods. He attached Morthak's analysis. And at the end, he added a personal note. These humans survived conditions that should have killed them. They did not wait to be rescued. They rescued themselves. I do not understand how, but I think we should pay attention to this species. He sent the report to Coalition headquarters and returned to checking on his passengers. The humans were all alive, against every reasonable expectation. Against the laws of probability and survival statistics, they were all alive, and they acted like it was just another day at work. Veltix had been in space for a long time. He had seen many strange things, but he had never seen anything quite like this. And deep in his mind, a question formed that he could not shake. If humans could do this when everything went wrong, what could they do when everything went right? The rescue was complete, but something told him this was just the beginning. Dr. Minji Choi sat in the medical bay of the rescue ship, looking at the test results for the 3rd time. The numbers did not make sense. They could not be right, but the machines did not lie. She turned to the alien doctor beside her, a tall blue being named Telvos. These readings show severe hypothermia, malnutrition, and oxygen deprivation. All 17 humans have the same symptoms. Yes, Telvos said slowly. By my people's standards, these conditions would have caused death within 4 days. Maybe 5 for the strongest individuals. They survived for 21 days, Minji said. She smiled slightly. We are very stubborn, Telvos stared at her. How is this possible? Minji thought about it. Humans evolved on a difficult planet. Earth had extreme weather, dangerous animals, diseases. Our ancestors survived because they were too stubborn to die. I guess we inherited that. In another room, Commander Veltix was interviewing Captain Jiho. The human captain sat wrapped in a thermal blanket, drinking hot soup. He looked tired but alert. "Walk me through what happened," Veltix said. "From the beginning," Jiho nodded. "We were passing through the asteroid field on our regular route. Then a micrometeor hit our engine section. The explosion tore open the hull. We lost main power immediately. Life support started failing. What did you do first?" "I gathered the crew. We assessed our situation. The emergency beacon was working, which was good. We had emergency rations for 3 days. We had emergency oxygen for maybe a week if we stayed calm. The ship's reactor was dead, so no heat, no power for life support. Most species would have waited for rescue," Veltix said carefully. Jiho looked at him with calm eyes. "Rescue might not come in 3 days. We were in an asteroid field. Ships avoid this area. We had to assume we would be here for a while. So we had to make 3 days of supplies last longer." "How much longer?" "We did the math. We could stretch the food to 21 days if we were very careful. Just enough calories to keep us conscious. Just enough water to survive. It would not be comfortable, but we would live." Veltix felt something cold in his stomach. "You chose to starve slowly?" "We chose to stay alive as long as possible," Jiho corrected gently. "That gave rescue more time to find us." In the engineering section, Hyun Park was explaining her work to a group of fascinated alien engineers. She had her notes spread out on a table, covered in hand-drawn diagrams and calculations. "The biggest problem was power," Hyun explained. "Without the reactor, we had nothing. No heat, no air recycling. The batteries were drained. We needed power, even just a little bit." "So you built solar panels," Morthak said. The crystalline scientist leaned forward. "From cargo materials. Yes, we had reflective emergency blankets. We had dark synthetic fabrics in the cargo. I knew the basic principles of solar collection. It was just a matter of arranging things correctly." "Just a matter," Morthak repeated. "You created a solar array with 47% efficiency using materials never designed for that purpose." Hyun shrugged. "The efficiency surprised me too. But we needed it to work, so we kept adjusting until it did. Trial and error. We had time." One of the alien engineers, a small insect-like being, spoke up. "But how did you know it would work? What if you wasted time on a failed design?" "Then we would try something else," Hyun said simply. Giving up was not an option. So we kept trying. In the common room, young navigator Daeho Song was talking with Plix, the communications officer. She had brought him some hot food, and he was eating slowly, savoring each bite. "I still do not understand how you calculated your drift," Plix said. "Without computers. Without instruments," Daeho smiled. "Ancient navigation. Humans used to sail on water using stars and mathematics. I studied those methods in school. I never thought I would actually use them in space. But space is so much more complex than water. The principles are similar. You have currents, reference points, velocity, and direction. I watched the stars through the damage section. I tracked our rotation. I measured shadows from the asteroids. It took time, but I could calculate roughly where we were drifting." Plix looked at her own instruments, full of advanced technology. "I could not do my job without these tools." "The tools make it easier," Daeho agreed. "But the math is still the same. Humans had to learn to navigate long before we had fancy equipment. That knowledge stays in our culture." Later that evening, Veltix called his senior officers together. They gathered in his ready room. Morthak Telvos and several others joined the meeting. Veltix looked at them all seriously. "I need honest opinions," Veltix said. "What we witnessed today. The human survival methods. What do you think?" Telvos spoke first. "From a medical perspective, it should not be possible. Their bodies endured stress that would kill most species. They did this consciously, knowing they were suffering but continuing anyway." Morthak added, "From an engineering perspective, their solutions violate standard practices, but they work. They work better than they should. It is as if humans approach problems from a completely different angle than we do." "What angle?" Veltix asked. "They assume everything is possible until proven otherwise," Morthak said slowly. "We look at a problem and calculate the proper solution. If we cannot find one, we accept defeat. Humans look at a problem and simply refuse to accept defeat. They keep trying until something works. Veltix thought about this. Is that wise? Or is it reckless? Maybe both, Plix suggested. But it kept them alive. The room fell silent. Finally, Veltix spoke again. I want to ask you all something. If we were in that situation, on a disabled ship with limited supplies, what would we have done? No one answered at first. Then Telvos said quietly, we would have activated the beacon and waited, tried to conserve resources, hoped for rescue to arrive quickly. If it did not, we would have accepted our fate. The humans did not accept their fate, Morthak said. They changed it. Veltix stood and walked to the window. He could see the Perseverance in the distance being towed by another ship. The wreck looked even worse in better lighting. It should have been a tomb. Instead, it had been a workshop. I am going to include all of this in my report, Veltix said. Coalition Command needs to understand what we saw here. These humans are different than we thought. Different how? Plix asked. Veltix turned to face his crew. We have always judged species by their technology, their military strength, their diplomatic skills. But humans have something else. They have an absolute refusal to die quietly. I am not sure what that means for the galaxy, but I think we should pay attention. The meeting ended. The officers returned to their duties, but none of them could stop thinking about the humans sleeping peacefully in the guest quarters. Those strange, stubborn, impossible humans who survived 3 weeks in hell and acted like it was just another day. In her quarters, Minji reviewed her medical notes one more time. She had written a simple conclusion. Human survival instinct appears significantly stronger than most documented species. Recommend further study. She paused, then added one more line. We do not give up. Even when we probably should. She smiled to herself and sent the report. Somewhere in Coalition headquarters, someone would read it. Someone would start asking questions. And slowly, the galaxy would begin to understand that humanity was not just another species with decent ships and friendly attitudes. Humanity was something the galaxy had never encountered before. And this was just the beginning of that discovery.